It would be great to have someone who could do our work for us, right? Someone to prevent us from making mistakes. Someone to assist with our routine professionally and allow us to devote our time to communicating with our closest people. If only we could get results without wasting our time for nothing. Unfortunately, it's impossible in real life. But wait, Light Forex Social Trading. Spend your time doing what really matters to you.
Good morning, it's the 29th of May 2019, it's 8 AM CET, Piotr here, and this is the pre-London Open live market coverage on Light Forex and their global YouTube channel. Let's start with risk warning, guys. Please bear in mind trading FX on margin, trading crypto on margin carries a high level of risk, may not be suitable for all investors who can sustain loss of some or your initial investment, so please do not invest the money that you cannot afford to lose. Okay, so where we are approaching end of the month as well as end of the week. So the flow related to end of the month will dominate probably for the next 3 days. In the meantime, we are going to have Bank of Canada rate decision later today, and it's my pleasure to invite you. I'm going to cover it live. We start at 3:15, 3:15 CET today. So we are going to focus on Canadian dollar during the afternoon meeting. Hopefully there are gonna be some movements. What else we have on the agenda today? All right. $8.45 French consumer spending, French preliminary CPI, French preliminary GDP. So watch out for the euro-dollar movement, especially that the expectations are quite okay. Market is expecting even higher CPI, I mean the revision towards the previous reading. We'll see. Then at 9, again, euro-related German BUBA President Weidmann speaks. 9:55 German unemployment change. At 10, hello Mer, hi, good morning. Hi FX Social Trading Group, good morning. Then we have at 10 ECB Financial Stability Review. Then for a quite long time, nothing. Then 4 p.m. today, Bank of Canada rate decision with the statement market expectations 1.75. So no change. The question is about the statement, if it's going to be more towards the dovishness or the hawks are going to take over. We will see. So nothing extraordinary today, but what we have to what we have to remember about is also the Friday Canadian GDP. So probably Bank of Canada members they know what we are going to get, so it's worth to read between the lines as well, right? That's how it looks from the calendar perspective today. Options market, and as I mentioned a few times already, also last time it was the yesterday, when you are a spot trader, or when you have to have some kind of the settlement in May, and on the based on the FX spot, then you have to make the deal today, right? So I do expect some kind of the higher volatility around the, for example, London fix. Anyway, 10 a.m. New York time, option expiration, euro dollar, we have above billion at 111, and to be honest with you, taking it into the consideration yesterday price action, I wouldn't be surprised that we might do the round down towards maybe not exactly 111, but the guys from the options market, the latest post non-farm payrolls low, the latest low, previous week low, it might be enough for them to cover if that's gonna be the case. Higher we have 1175 600 millions and 112 700, so we've got 700 plus 600 plus, so within the 25 pips, 1175.12, we've got something towards 1.5 billion on euro dollar. Dollar yen, we are trading closer towards 109. So let's start from the bottom. Nothing extraordinary, to be honest with you. 109, 400 million. 108, 75, 370 million. So not big number. Then towards 110 we have 1.2 billion, and that's I wouldn't be surprised to see the round a little bit higher above 109.60. All right. What is interesting is 2750, 650 plus million on British pound, and that's somewhere around this week high. So maybe we are going to make the round towards this level as well. So that's how it looks from the option market perspective. We are going to discuss it within the second. In case of the European opening calls, most of the indices calling for minus 0.5% at the open or even lower. It's also worth to watch from the risk perspective. Now let's start with the charts, and let's start with dollar index. It should be very interesting, or it's going to be very interesting. So let's start with DX. And that's the daily. So we were discussing yesterday, let's switch to monthly. We were discussing yesterday, there is still space for a dollar to go higher based on the monthly chart, right? Based on what we see on the monthly chart here, red color, still there is a chance based on this supply, right, over here. Now, what bulls should be afraid of is the similar situation we've had last month, right? And we are creating the upper shadow again here. What I've been thinking about, and now you have to remind yourself, for example, pound chart. I'm going to show you in a second as well. Look at this election candle over here from November 2016, right? And we do have entry here. So now, very interesting situation, because we hit the stops compared to previous week high, previous month high, and there is a little bit of the rejection, right? So I wouldn't be surprised, because it's a very, very interesting level from both bulls and bears perspective, all right? So in that case, as long as we are below, it looks like we might see at least a little bit of the dollar weakness, just profit taking, right? It might start today, it might start in June. Now, what important is, in my opinion, is this month low. That's the first thing first, right? Why? Because if you can see here, that's the January price action, and where we found, from the bulls perspective, where we found support, it was at the top of the January range, right? So in case we are going to break through this month low, that's probably we are gonna to see a yearly open, because of the size of this month candle, right? The distance is almost similar, so we can try to approach the chart that way. So let's try to summarize based on what we have here on the monthly. Supply around the high of this month, demand around the low of this month, right? A little bit of the upper shadow, very logical place. If we are going to close below, that's gonna be another upper shadow, and we might see a little bit of the correction in USD. The key points are gonna be January high and yearly open. So let's switch lower. If you remember, we were discussing this yesterday. I'm gonna to watch 98, 98.10 today from dollar perspective. Why? Because of this stop count. That's what we discussed. We hit the stops above the previous month high, rejection. But we found at the very beginning of this week, we found demand at the logical place. So we might treat it like a breakout, retest, continuation eventually. But I think it would be easier to do that a month ago, and it didn't happen, right? So what we have right now on the weekly, some kind of the double top over here. Of course, it's a not top, right? But something looks like double top, where the second top is a little bit higher, so it was like stop count. Now, profit taking, right after the stop count, the weakest longs were forced to get out, retest, and it's all about 98, 98.10 from the dollar perspective, and from the bulls perspective, in case we are going to hold 98.10, we might see retest of 97.50, and in case we are going to break through 97.50, right, we are talking, and we were discussing yesterday, 97 might be the first target here. So let's switch even lower. Let's switch to daily. So what I'm looking for, as I mentioned, 98, 98.10. It's what we've seen here, here, here. Attempt to go higher, rejected. So yeah, I'm looking for a retest over here. So in that case, as long as we are below, in total, below 98.10 and previous week high, looks like there is not much space for euro dollar to go down, right? Wow, interesting. That's interesting. So let's switch to the platform and let's have a look. Let's have a look what we have on the euro dollar and other euro crosses. Okay, so let's start with euro dollar, as it's the most heavy, the heaviest inside the dollar index, right? And I want to talk about the 23rd of May price action, right? As we took out the post non-farm payrolls low, we took out the low from the 26th of April, right? 11.12, 11.06. So in that case, there was a stop count and strong rejection, right? What we were discussing yesterday, we were discussing this range, all right? So now if you remember the option market, there is a 111, quite good chunk of the money over there. So either, because we have to remember few levels, either we are going to try to finish the business here in what happened 21st of May, 22nd of May, 23rd of May. I'm talking about the levels over here towards 11.39, 11.30, all right? And we will try to reject. So either we are going, so we can work with few lines again here. We don't need, looks like this post ECB over here, we don't need that anymore, or let's leave it here. Let's use that one. So either we are going to work with these levels over here or with these levels over here, right? So that, I think, based on what we've seen on dollar index, and as long as we are below 98.10, 98.40 on dollar index, theoretically that should hold, right? So that's the hope for euro bulls. That's the hope for euro bulls. The only thing, if I would be the bull, the only thing I would be worried about or afraid of is the thing that if we agree with that range, all right? So the latest rally, the bounce off after the stop count, hit just 50% of that range. So yeah, and we rejected again 112, all right? So that's the thing to be worried of, in my opinion, all right? But we may try to create some kind of the swing low. 12.15 as a key today, okay? But so we know more or less where we are, that the range is getting more and more narrower. Now we know where we are from the weekly perspective as well, right? We're trying to hold this 111. We do have bigger demands down towards 110. It might be that everyone is expecting 110. So if at some point bulls are gonna be able to take out 1265, 13 psychological level, right? I'm talking about that range here. I'm talking about that range from the late April. That one, right? Range. And once we are gonna be able to take out that range, bulls should be fine at least towards 1350, right? With the spike. But there's always but. It might be one more attempt to go lower, trying to double that range, right? That would probably translate for something, for stops on the dollar index even higher. So another upper shadow on the monthly chart on the dollar index, right? So I'm watching carefully what is going on here from the intraday perspective. How they are trying to manipulate us, right? I'm pretty sure that based on previous week price action over here, right? Because of the lower shadow, because of the positive body, there was plenty of buyers of euro, right? And simply they were trapped, especially that we broke through the previous week high, 12.12, and this week high was 12.15, but mostly it was done on Monday during the bank holiday. Pretty nice manipulation. So I wouldn't be surprised, that's what we discussed, to see more stop hunt to the downside here. All right. So euro dollar is giving a little bit mixing signals compared to dollar index, but remember the second heaviest inside the dollar index is dollar yen, which is weakening. We are below 110, so we might see faster move down on the dollar index, slow attempt to break the range to the downside on euro dollar, and still be below 98.10, 98.40 on the dollar index. That's quite important, right? Here, as I mentioned, I don't like current price action on euro dollar from the higher time frame. As the previous week price action, it might be that the lower shadow, it's still pull liquidity, and it at some point we might see stop count to the downside, right? Unless we are going to close this week green. That's how I see the things over here, and we are talking also about this late April range. So that's how the euro dollar looks like from the higher time frame, right? And especially yesterday after the breakthrough 1175, that's breakdown added to the pressure, especially right, euro is under pressure from the yen side. We broke through 2250 yesterday, all right, and we continue to the downside. We are right now below 22. Okay, so here we are under pressure, as well as we might be, or different words, euro might be under pressure from the pound perspective, right? There was a nice rally of the euro pound, but finally we hit some possible supply based on what happened here and the breakdown from here. So it is right now supply on euro pound. I do expect some activity over here, right? Bearish activity over here. What's the important thing from the bull's perspective, right? If you can see what we have here, I'm talking about the price action from the 13th of February. And please notice what we have here and here. I'm talking about the 23rd of May, and I'm talking about the 27th of May, right? So we are talking about the 87.90 in both cases, as you can see, right? As well as what we've seen here, right? So in case of, I do expect bearish price action over here. We have 88.40, 88.35 as possible supply over here, and what I'm gonna to look for is the intraday rejection here at the top, retest of 87.90, 87.80. So look for stops below this low from the 23rd and 27th, right? So in that case, euro might be under pressure. So overall, euro might be under pressure from the yen side, might be under pressure from the dollar side, and might be under pressure from pound side, right? But in that case, we still got some space. Key level something around 87.90, 87.80. I think breakdown through this level will open 87.25. all right, the low from the 21st of May. But I think this untested broken supply 86.50 gonna be the target. Okay, so let's switch lower where we are. Taking into the consideration just opening and closing levels here. Okay, that's the nice range for the last few days. With the lows we discussed, equal lows we discussed over here, and stop count at the top of that range, right? Retest yesterday, rejection. So what I'm looking for today, from the intraday price action perspective, I would like to see attempt to break higher through the Tokyo high. All right, attempt to break above 88.25 to test 88.35.40 and see some kind of the rejection on a smaller time frame to have a possibility to narrow my distance between entry and the stop, right? The first target gonna be bottom of that range, and the second target is gonna be the breakdown, doubling that range, and what we were discussing, 87.50. Okay, so that's how I see the things over here for the few euro crosses, right? Now, because of what happened yesterday, I still think it's worth to watch dollar. It's still worth to watch dollar Chinese yuan, right? Especially as we are approaching end of the month. There is another attempt to sell Chinese yuan. Currently we are trading around 693, okay? 695 as a first key psychological level, rejected few times. So there is an attempt to retest this level, right? So it's of course negative from the risk perspective, and we can see, for example, Nasdaq, and Nasdaq is inside the psychological 7,260, 7,210 zone we were discussing few times already, based on what we see here, right? So I would be very, very careful. There is of course possibility that we are going to see some kind of the manipulation towards end of the month, right? Some kind of the window dressing or something like this. So I would be very careful. I would like to see what is going to happen at the end of the day, because it might be the thing that it's some kind of the manipulation. They want to scare us, right? But why the current level is so important, right? So let's see the breakthrough. Let's see we hold this. Let's see retest and then move finally to the downside. All right. So end of the month flow might be ideal here. So be careful. We are going to discuss more about the indices during our afternoon meeting. And Canadian dollar, that's what we are going to discuss during our afternoon meeting, basically based on the Bank of Canada rate decision. All right, looks like there might be attempt to break higher, taking into consideration what we've seen till now. Look for a break higher towards 36, and it might be quite aggressive move in case of the bearish statement or dovish statement. We might see aggressive stop count above top of that range, right? We saw the stop count to the downside, so it's time to do the same to the upside right now, because where we are, that's my opinion. So from the intraday perspective, I've been trying to trade around the Canadian dollar yesterday. Looks like I choose wrong pair, right? I've been long EURCAD without the success. So we'll see. What I'm going to watch here, in case of the previous break of the previous week high, right? I'm gonna to watch 17 of May, 16, 17 of May, this particular high over here, in case of some kind of the rejection. Okay. More about the Canadian dollar during our afternoon meeting. So basically that's it from me today's morning. I'm going to focus on the euro crosses. That's what we discussed. I'm going to monitor euro dollar, euro pound, and euro yen. Basically, I'm going to monitor dollars, Chinese yuan, just to get the bias, just to get the current sentiment on the market. All right, it doesn't look good right now. So closer we are getting to the European Open, the lower we are, but we will see. That's it from me. Just a reminder, 3:15 today we are going to cover Bank of Canada rate decision. You are more than welcome to join me this afternoon based on the CET time. Have a good London session, don't be trapped, and see you around.
It would be great to have someone who could do our work for us, right? Someone to prevent us from making mistakes. Someone to assist with our routine professionally and allow us to devote our time to communicating with our closest people. If only we could get results without wasting our time for nothing. Unfortunately, it's impossible in real life. But wait, Light Forex social trading. Spend your time doing what really matters to you.